Yo, welcome to another episode of School's Guilty Pleasures. You know the vibes, baby. This is my show. This is what I do. This is my thing. I love bad movies. I don't know if this is particularly a bad movie, but to me it's not, of course, because that's what I do here. But I just want to introduce my guest, Miss Mia. Say hello to the people.
Hello, hi. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I saw you on the last episode of Culture Garden. I had to get you on. I feel your passion, your love for the films is similar to ours. So it would be a waste of talent not to have you on. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. This is right up my alley too.
Absolutely. So before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to the Culture Garden, of course. A shout out to Ray P. Shout out to Rich. Shout out to the Good Earners podcast. All that good stuff, man. Check obviously we're on YouTube. Check the link tree. It'll be in the link, I believe. I think it's the link. Whatever, doesn't matter. It'll be on there. Check it out. Of course, with all the things that we do in here on here, especially with movies, there will be spoilers and explicit content. So let's get started. Today's film, as you can tell, is Joyride. There is another Joyride that came out 2023, but we're not talking about that one. We're talking about the one from 2001 with Paul Walker, and Steve Zahn and Lily Sabaski. I'm not good with names, so if I fuck her name up, she'll be all right. Shit. The synopsis for this movie: three young friends. It says three teenagers. That's what I say. Three teenagers go on a road trip from Colorado to New Jersey and happen to pick up a CB radio and start playing around on it, start pranking, and they prank the wrong motherfucker. He's not having it. So that's the synopsis for the film. It came out October 5th, 2001. The stats on it cost about 23 million to make. It made about 36 million, 7 million opening weekend. So it made its money back, but it's not it's not historically, you know, did anything crazy, but I think it did enough to get Paul Walker started in his career because this is the first thing that I've ever seen him in. And after
Really?
this the same year Fast and Furious came out, so we all know what happened after that. He took off. So
You know what? That's crazy. I remember the first Paul Walker movie I've ever seen was She's All That.
he was in that. He was in that. Man. Those movies were big in the '90s, though. She's All That. It's another one that was really big too.
Ooh, I loved all of them.
Yeah, they were big, and then they hit him with the Not Another Teen movie because that became big. The parodies, and all that. Yeah, yeah. So that was good. We can get into the cast. We have Steve Zahn as Fuller, which Steve Zahn is someone that I consider someone that the industry tried to force on us. He has about 90 movie credits, but from like '01 to '06, he was in everything, and he's mad annoying to me. But unfortunately, man, I don't like dude. But he was good in this. He did. I feel this is his best acting performance.
That's crazy because
You
I
like?
did not like him in this movie.
Don't I like?
No.
I do. I think that he plays that role of like being the oddball. Like he doesn't fit in with his family. Like I get why he's not around his family. Like because him and Paul Walker or Lewis seem so different.
You know what? I'll say maybe it's not that I didn't like him in this movie. I didn't like his character,
Okay.
but I did like his acting. So,
Okay.
yeah, you're right. He did a great job. And that's why I did not like his character at all. And I
Right.
have some notes about that too.
Okay. We also have Paul Walker as Lewis, and we have Lily again. If I fuck her name up, she will be okay. Sabaski as Vern,
Venna.
Venna, yeah, Venna. And then we have I always call him Leland Stoudemire because he's in one of my favorite shows, Monk. That's his name in that. But it's Ted Levine. He also played Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
But he's the voice actor for Rusty Nails. That's pretty much the cast. They have like a few other people in it, but no one that we really know. You know, I mean, we can give them their flowers, but I don't know them. So,
Right.
all right. So, the origin of this film, it took about 4 years to get made. It was written by John Dahl. And like I said, it took about 4 years to get made. They casted Paul Walker for it in August of '99. Um, Tobey Maguire was also supposed to be in this. He was originally supposed to play Lewis, but they wind up giving it to Paul Walker. And I can definitely see Tobey Maguire in this film. But the
Yes.
problem with that is I don't know if we get Spider-Man because it took so long for this film to be made because
Mhm.
it started in '96. It started getting filmed in '99. It didn't come out to 2001. And of course, Spider-Man came out in 2002. So it's like, will we get Spider-Man? Will we get Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man? That's my question if this happens. But I can see Tobey Maguire in this movie for sure.
Same. When you said that, because I did not know that, but when you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with me and Rich kind of had this conversation. My problem with Paul Walker playing Lewis in this film is like Paul Walker's a nice looking guy. I don't believe that he would be chasing this young lady, like especially for him to be in college. Like I don't know. It must. It's probably because they have history. You know, they've been friends for so long that, and I think that I guess plays a part in it. But I don't feel like he would be chasing her. He's
Yeah,
Paul. Like
a similar thought. Not exactly. I was like, it was more so I didn't see him having any competition from his brother. Like I didn't
yes, that
see
too.
his brother as any type of competition. I was like, they're not about to gaslight me into thinking that she's really trying to make a choice between these two people.
Uh, exactly that, and I think that's it too. Like, and side note, and not to jump into trivia too early, but they actually filmed two scenes, romantic scenes with the both of them. Like, and you can tell in the movie because of the after they go to the bar and he's kind of like feeling her, and he's like, you know what? He says something to his brother like, "You said y'all just friends, right?" And of course, Lewis is drunk and knocked the hell out, so he doesn't even answer. He's like, "Because I'll back off if that's the case." Like, then of course he goes to her room and no means no, but hey, he puts the pressure on her, so he winds up in there.
Man,
Yeah. So I'll ask you first: is this a good bad movie, or a good movie, or is it a bad movie?
I went back and forth with myself about this.
Okay.
I feel like it's a good movie that could have been better
Absolutely.
with a couple different choices. I do understand, when you have a lot of rewrites in a film and all of that good stuff, it can, mess with the pacing. And
Yeah.
so I think it's not a bad movie. I do think it's a good movie, but it definitely could have been better.
I agree 110%. Um, like I said, it took 4 years for this movie to get made. There's like three alternate endings. It's a lot going on with this film. Um, but kind of like the conversation I had about Glitter, it's good things in this movie, and they could have just leaned into those a little bit more. Specifically, Rusty Nail. I think Rusty Nail was amazing. Ted Levine as a voice actor was amazing because all he did was do voice acting in the movie. The Another gentleman played Rusty Nail, but they could have leaned on that a little bit more
I
because
actually think if they would have had Ted as Rusty Nail, it would have been way more effective. Like whoever that
absolutely,
guy was that they had, it was just he was not scary to me. He didn't scare me.
Well, the thing about it was they made him, and I looked into it. They made him. The guy is a big dude. He's like 6'8". He's supposed to be this big menacing dude, but they only show him in like one scene.
Mhm.
So, like you said, they could have just used Ted Levine. Like you can do some makeup work and make it work out, and use his voice because that's obviously what you wanted in this movie was his voice. So just use it. Use him. Fuck it.
Exactly. Like I see like maybe a point where, where he has Venna, um, maybe like him whispering things to her or like
Yeah,
saying things, like kind of using him a little bit more.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if you've seen Silence of the Lambs,
He did his job in that for sure.
he was terrifying. And
Yeah,
I think it would have been a little bit more effective. But all in all, it worked. It worked.
yeah. It definitely did his thing. Do you do you remember your first experience with this film?
I don't. I have no idea, but I just remember that I used to really like it. I remember it was one of
Yeah.
those movies that I would watch if I just saw it like on street, like you know how we didn't have streaming,
Hmm.
It was
Yep.
like it would come on like Stars or HBO or one of those channels, and I'd be like, "Ooh," and I would just watch it. But I don't know that I've ever until now just really sat down and watched the whole thing and like paid really close attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I've seen this movie so many times that I don't remember the first time I've seen it, but I do know that I haven't seen it in so long that when I watched it again, the first 15, 20 minutes of this movie, I don't remember. I was like, what? He was on the phone he, and then he traded in his tickets for a car. Like, I don't remember none of that. Like, and that's so movie like you take your one plane ticket and trade it in to buy a car. Like, what kind of plane ticket did you have? Like, but I guess if you're traveling from California to New Jersey, that's probably an expensive ticket,
Mhm.
and it must be first class because he was swiping the hell out that Mastercard. You feel me? He am I lying? Like that nigga was
No, for
swiping the hell
real.
out that Mastercard, and and for his dad to be a plumber, like they made that reference of his dad being a plumber. Like he must own a plumbing business. Like
There were a lot of moments where I was like, to me, it seems like you could have just bought a car. Like you could afford a car because, you know,
even when he told his mom he bought a car, she was just like nonchalant, like, "Oh yeah, okay," like whatever.
yeah, movie magic.
Man, the movie magic. So, do you have any scenes that you enjoy in this movie?
I do. I have a couple.
Okay.
I took down a lot, but I think I'm going to condense it a little bit just because we talked about it. I did talk about in my favorite scenes him selling his plane ticket to buy a car.
Yeah.
um, the first scene when they introduce Fuller, like at the police station, and you can
Yes.
just kind of see what he's going to be on. Like, oh man,
Trash, smooth talking, trash ass Fuller. That's just
mm, not a good dude.
no, not at all. So I'll go into your scene. Right after that is the first scene I wrote down was when I think that the people say reads. He was reading his brother, who he hasn't seen in 5 years. But when he tells him he's picking up his friend, he's like, "So who is this friend?" And he explains, and then he goes, "Oh, so are you hitting that? What's going on?" And he's like, "Nah." And then he breaks it down, and he's like, "So let me get this straight. She's broke up with her boyfriend. She's realized that you like each other. Blase, blase." And the way Lewis drives off that road, he tells that man like, "Yo, chill out on me, bro. Like, I ain't seen you in 5 years. We ain't got that type of relationship." Like I
And
like I like that he stood up for himself,
me too.
even though even though he didn't do that much in this movie.
You know, That's one of my gripes with the movie.
Hmm.
It's like, you was letting your brother get away with a whole lot.
Yeah, they both were kind of pussy. Like they usually in movies like this, you have that one person, and I felt like it was the young lady. I feel like she was tougher than all of them. Even when they, the scene where he told them to open the trunk, like they were both super scared, and she was like, "Man, give me that shit!" Like open the trunk, like come on, man, y'all got to have some shit about y'all. Sheesh. You got another scene?
I do. Okay. So right after that, again, the scene where they first hear Rusty Nail over the CB,
Hmm.
and of course Fuller is pressuring him to like do this prank on him. And he's a little resistant at first, and then he finally turns on his candy cane voice.
Right.
And like that whole little scene where you hear the voice and they're like laughing and oh Lord. It
Mhm.
turns like it starts out and you're like, okay, it's just a little innocent prank, it's stupid.
Absolutely.
But Fuller just couldn't let it go. He just had to keep.
As a little brother, that's how I be sometimes. Big bro put that pressure on you sometimes. Like do it, do it, do it. Even though they haven't seen each other in 5 years, you still know who Big Bro is. Like he definitely persuaded him to do a lot of shit he did not want to do. That just wasn't him.
It had absolutely no remorse or
Nope.
accountability about any of it.
They got a nigga's jaw ripped off. And he was mad at him for telling.
I'm telling you, Fuller. Oh, I was
Man.
hoping. I was like, if anybody got to go in this movie,
Yeah.
Fuller's
Yeah.
got to be the one.
Yeah, it really bothered me that nothing happened to them for that anyway. The sheriff was like, I should charge y'all, but y'all don't know shit. Like, I don't think that's how that works.
No,
They would have got charged with something.
the police in this whole movie was
Half
just
ass.
like, no, no.
They were half ass. The next scene I have is the Lone Star Motel. I just find it anytime there's moments of like just racism, that shit is hilarious to me. And that dude in there was the guy that got his jaw ripped off. I can't
Yeah.
remember his name, but he deserved that shit. That shit was hilarious. He was going off, and as a person that's been in retail and had to deal with people like that, that shit was amazing. But that shit was also funny because that nigga told him when I talk to your boss in the morning, you're gone, buddy. And that's how they be thinking. They think that they have enough power. Like you're just a customer, bro. Like you gonna spend your money. We ain't gonna see you ever again. You tripping.
He said, your brown ass is gone.
Your brown ass is gone, bro. And he meant that shit. And I wish, man, for me being me, I would have loved to seen that conversation with the manager. What that would have went like. Um, you got another scene?
I do. I said, I don't remember if this came before or after. I think it was after the convenience store scene. After they
Yeah,
pulled that prank on Rusty Nail and the
yeah,
whole and they think that the ice truck guy is him and he's
yeah,
chasing them and they're running and then he's like, you dropped your your wallet, you dropped
yeah. Trying to give him the MasterCard back, and he's like, Lewis. He's like, said your name. He said
your
your name. Like that's shit. The shit that bothers me is like nobody has any balls to just like. I mean, I get it. I get it to an extent, but it's like, yo, yeah, at this point, he got y'all. So
right.
I got to man up and try to at least swing on this nigga. Like, what's going on here? Like, and but I also love the fact that Fuller was like, I've never felt more like a pussy than just now. Like, because that's pretty much it. Like, y'all was horrible in that moment. And I'm glad old girl wasn't in there because it wouldn't have been no romantic scenes after that. That was bad.
It was bad.
Yeah. So that honestly is my last scene.
Really?
I just that's it for me. But
Okay.
I know people probably like you don't you say you like these movies, but you don't have a lot of scenes, but that's just it. Like I can just continue to watch the movie. There's nothing magical after that. It gets a little more movie-ish.
Mm.
They pick up the old girl and then it turns into a shit show after that.
Let me see. I think you're right about that. You're right. It's not one of those wow factor movies. It just has a
Yeah.
bunch like, but I will say I did enjoy the it wasn't the last scene, but leading up to the last scene where he had Venna in the chair with that booby trap
Mm-hmm.
and like kind of seeing all of the little suspense because every time they open a door, you're like, is this the door? Is this the door? Is she gonna get shot? And kind of like that build up to are they gonna open the door? Like them running from motel to motel and then the police opening all the doors and you finally get to the point where you're like, okay, she's like, is he gonna be able to pull her back in time?
Yeah.
Like that is from a suspense thriller
Now,
view.
now let me piggyback off what you're saying. I do think the ending of this movie is amazing. Like I really do. The last 15 minutes is really good, and the way they end this movie, like
Mhm.
setting it up for the sequels, the direct to DVD sequels, um, which is just making money, a money making franchise, which I'm sure they thought this might have been bigger. But yeah, the last 15 minutes of this movie are good. Even just like you saying, that suspense, them kicking down the door. They started at 23 clear, 22, and they're in 17. So they're giving you that suspense of them knocking, and then eventually, because I kept saying as I'm watching it, I'm like, bro, you know that she's in there. Fuller, you know she's in there with the gun and all that shit. So when are you gonna? But then he's he's stuck and being stabbed. So of course his mind is like, bro, I'm trying to get the fuck out of this. You know what I mean? So it was good, good suspense, good ending,
I
and
really like
especially them using the ice truck dude from earlier. That's when I was like, oh shit, dude, smart. That's real smart. So that's like I said, I enjoyed the ending of this movie. I'm not gonna say it's one of the best endings of all time, but it's definitely for this type of movie a good ending.
Yeah, it's a good ending. I really like the ending. That's one of my favorite parts about the movie too.
Hmm. Yeah, you could tell that they were relying on the ending heavy on this movie, and that was going. They felt this probably was going to make them more money. Like I said, they again, not stepping on trivia, but there are two direct to DVD sequels, and they're direct to DVD because I mean it didn't turn out well for this movie. 36 million on a $23 million budget is not really rocking the movie world, you know.
Yeah. And I don't think it did very well domestically at all.
No, it made like 8 mil the first opening weekend or some crap like that. I don't know what it was going against, but it also is 2001 October, so September 11th. It's like, are people going to see the movies? I don't remember. I was 11, so I don't really
Same.
even remember if we went to see anything. Um, so that's what I got on that. I don't think I have anything else.
Nope, those are all my scenes.
You have anything else? No, that's it. Let me see what else I got. Some trivia. You got anything far as trivia? Anything you saw you might want to mention?
I think you did it already. Mine was about Ted Levine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. we always have the scene stealer, and I was gonna use him. I was just gonna say his voice because it was very menacing. I think it was the star of the movie. Uh, Paul did his thing.
He
Paul
did.
did his thing, of course, and we all know that. I'm not a big fan of Paul Walker as a human being, but as an actor, he's pretty dope. Um, but you know, it is what it is.
No comment.
It is what it is. Shit. I mean, if we went off how these people are outside of these acting studios, we wouldn't have a show, right?
Oh yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, I don't have much trivia. There are three alternate endings. If you have the DVD, you can check those out. I think that's about it. I think that's about it. Anything else you might want to say, might want to mention?
Um. So I feel like I really want to talk about
Yes, go
what
for it.
what could have been done to make this movie better.
Absolutely.
I was waiting on that.
Okay, go for it. I mentioned it earlier. I just said they could have leaned on. I wish they would have leaned on Rusty Nail a little bit more. That's it for me. Just about even in those scenes where he's involved, they're just like using lights and even when he kidnapped. I keep saying "old girl" because I don't her name and I'm not good with names. But even when he kidnapped her, they could have played on that a little bit more and showed us how big he was because you don't see how menacing he is until they're in the hotel. So that was my recommendation. But of course, go for it.
All right. So, do you feel like this movie was a little long? Like the pacing might be a little
Yep.
off?
I mentioned that to Rich. He asked me, you know what I think is wrong with this movie? And I was like, it's too long. He's like, no. But I thought it was a little too long. It's probably about 10, 15 minutes too long for me. But then it's only an hour and 37 minutes. So then it's like, are you really going to watch a movie that's an hour and 10 minutes? Yeah.
I mean,
Will. I watch Tubi
90
movies. Tubi movies be about an hour, 10, 15.
a little 90-minute thriller would not have. I feel like my problem with the pacing is I feel like it's almost like you're watching two different movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is where it goes back to me saying I didn't really remember because if you would have asked me, I would have thought Venna was in the whole movie.
Yep.
But she wasn't even introduced. I mean, of course, aside from the phone call, she wasn't brought in until like 30 minutes
Yeah. Yeah.
halfway into the movie.
Yeah, I think it was even longer than that. It might have been like
Yeah.
5 minutes. And the crazy part about this is she's the biggest star of the movie. Like, far as what am I looking for? What word am I looking for? Recognition. She's the biggest star. She has an Emmy nomination from her portrayal in Joan of Arc, an HBO. I want to say it's like a special or something they did, and she was nominated for an Emmy. So she's up there, compared to these two guys. They don't, who are you compared to her? So I think that's really interesting as well.
Like I feel like the the first like 20 minutes of him um his phone calls, him talking to his mom, him going to pick Fuller up from the police station. I feel like that could have been they could have trimmed a lot of that down.
Yeah,
They could
for
have
sure.
trimmed down also some of the scenes with Venna. Like that whole bar scene with the guys in the bar and they're like, "Is this your bitch?" Like, please, please. But
And, and even with that, like those scenes, like you're saying, what's the purpose of those scenes? Because at first you think that Lewis is going to be tough and stand up for the girl that he likes, and he bitches up, and then Fuller comes in and saves the day, even though he doesn't. He's not really tough. He doesn't do anything tough, but he steals the show and steals the spotlight and whatever. But some of that shit is pointless.
yeah, just I feel like they could have trimmed a little bit of it down to make it a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? Cohesive,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it felt like the first 30 minutes was a completely different movie. And I
Hmm.
think them having the brothers have their whole conflict with Rusty Nail before Venna even gets involved. And
Yeah.
then they bring her in. They don't tell her anything. Like this
No.
man literally just like crashed your car, like crashed into your car. You got your car fixed, which again, where you getting all this money from?
That MasterCard, man, that MasterCard is powerful.
So you
But
get into this whole thing with this trucker. He runs into your car. You, you know, you're you think you're like in a life or death situation, and then it's like, okay, forget all that. We're gonna go pick up Venna, and none of
mhm,
that ever happened. We're not gonna talk about it. And it just was like we started over, and now it's a whole new movie. And it was
yeah.
just really strange to me. And I
And
felt
they should have known better in a sense because obviously he had been following y'all the whole movie anyway prior. And even that they could have done a better job of letting us know how Rusty Nail figured out some of the shit with them. You know what I mean? Like because they give you no recognition of how he has the intelligence or the knowledge to, figure out certain aspects of their lives.
But I'm like, did he look up their license plate number? How does he know they're brothers? How does he know her name? Like, how does he know
That's what I'm saying. Like
any of this?
he's a bad mofo. Like this nigga's crazy, and that's what they just want you to rely on. Like, he crazy. Like he don't he done, and it's just like I'm a little bit smarter than that. Give
You're
me a
not
little bit more than that, and they didn't do that. So, um, man, I'm starting to realize like maybe this ain't a good movie.
like, and I'm not trying to take anything away from it because a lot of it was really well done.
Hmm. I think a lot of that too has to do with, and I said it earlier, it took 4 years for this movie to get made, and they filmed it. They filmed this movie for 2 years, and then there's like three different endings, and then they called them back prior, probably like 6 months before it was released, to do some more reshoots. So Steve Zahn and Paul Walker were connected to this movie for a very long time, even as they were doing other movies. It's known that Steve Zahn had to put on a wig in the ending, a couple of the ending scenes, because he had changed his hair. Like he was done with the movie, he thought, so he changed his hair and he had to put on a wig, and it's just like it's a lot of time was spent on this movie for it to make $36 million, and it's like, yeah.
Like, I feel like they were trying to find the next like horror thriller movie uh
Hmm.
franchise, like the next big, like, this is coming off of the late 90s where you getting Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer,
Yep.
all of these,
Yep.
slashers who
Yep.
have like this ominous presence. You don't necessarily know who it is or
Yeah.
where they are, how they're getting, around. And I feel like
Absolutely.
they were going for that, but they didn't quite get it right.
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't. They could have, like I said, they should have leaned on him a little bit more.
Yeah.
And and the man, because the performance is there, and they did it all post production. Ted Levine came in after the movie was already done and added his voice. And but man, if they would have just, it makes me wonder, could they have afforded him? I'm sure they could have. I'm sure they could have. He's not a big like mega superstar. They could have afforded him to come on in and put on a mask and play Rusty Nails. Shit, for real.
And I just have one more thing.
Absolutely.
I feel like, oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. I was going to say that I don't fault it because I know when the movie was made. It's
Hmm.
early 2000s.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't want to seem like I'm asking for too much out of this movie. for what it is.
Yeah.
But it still just really bothers me that Fuller never had any self-actualization. He never, like,
Nope.
it was like he was a trash person the whole time and nobody ever like held him accountable and he never changed. It just like
Yeah, it's kind of like we had that conversation with thin line between love and hate. Like Darnell won in the end of that movie, and he probably shouldn't have. You know what I mean? Like he was the shitty guy. Like those type of characters should not win. You know, they should. I'm not saying he should have died, but he damn sure should have got his leg broken. And I
I
know he kind of did get fucked up, but it should have been much worse than that. Shit.
I would love to have a off the record conversation about that episode with you and Rich because I have thoughts.
Absolutely, absolutely. What else was I gonna say? Is there anything else you want to add?
No, that was everything.
All right. So with that being said, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get my rating on. I said I was gonna come up with a rating system. I thought about it today, and I think I don't know if this is corny, but I don't give a fuck because this is my show. So I'm gonna do. So my rating system will probably be well. It will be. Will I watch this again? It'll be hell yeah, shit yeah, fuck yeah. All right. So on the scale of hell yeah, shit yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go hell yeah. I'll watch it again, but it'll probably be another couple years. She like,
Hell yeah, if it just happens to be on.
absolutely, I'm with that. I'm with that. I'm okay with that. Well, I definitely appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was
Absolutely.
so much fun.
Hey, this movie, man, it brings back a lot of memories for me just because it's one of the first movies me and my wife watched together. So
Oh,
yeah, and our anniversary is Wednesday. Happy anniversary, baby.
happy anniversary.
Yes, yes, 10 years strong. Um, so besides that, I appreciate you being on here.
Of
And with that,
course.
and with that being said, peace.